As you've noticed from watching television the last couple of months, that our country definitely has a very serious sex problem. As Jimmy Swaggart says, America has a fornication problem. Now you see the problem here with Gary Hart that Gary's had the last couple of weeks. Now, I don't want to talk too much about that because when it comes to extramarital affairs, I don't know what Gary Hart's position is. I do wonder, though, if Gary Hart and his wife remarry, will the Republicans throw Donna Rice? But the reason I'm not going to talk about politicians and their hobbies is that's for some other time, and they don't cost me money. And I'm not going to talk about the ministers either because they don't cost me money. But our Marines cost me money. Now, in the last 2 months, the government has indicated that it's going to spend over $40 million to build a bug-free compound in Moscow to house our embassy. They are spending 10% of that budget, which is $4 million, on a psychological training program to make our Marines, what Jimmy Swaggart would say, would be fornication-proof. Now, I want you to know something. You're probably aware of the fact that whatever the Russians are doing with their women, we're doing with our women. According to very reliable sources, like the Valley Green sheet, our CIA, our clumsy intelligence agency, or our certainly inept agency, trains about 30 women a year to sleep with foreign diplomats to try to extract secrets from them. They pay them $35,000 a year. Now that's a total of over $1 million. Now this is a civil service job, which means the salaries are computed on an 8-hour day. Now you know you can't sleep with your friends 8 hours a day, let alone your enemies. And that's where we may have a little problem, and that's where our thought comes in here. What it is that I think we should do is if we train our women to sleep with foreigners, we don't know what they're going to get, let alone secrets. Now, fornication and sex, regardless of the circumstances, happens to be sometimes a pleasurable activity. And the point is, why give that pleasure to the enemy? Now, Ronald Reagan has said that he supports the Surgeon General when the Surgeon General says that because of the problem of AIDS, that what we should do is we should practice monogamy or abstinence. Well, our Marines are good men. And for single good men, it's very difficult to practice abstinence, and since they don't have girls most of the time in Moscow, they can't practice monogamy. Now, what I would suggest that they might do is that why have these ladies sleep with Russians? I mean, why give it to the Russians? Why give the Russians that pleasure? Why not have some of our ladies sleep with our Marines? Now that may shock a lot of people when you think about it, but think about the moral and the practical implications of this. First of all, the moral aspects of it. Our Marines are laying down their lives for our country. Now a lifetime is forever. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, that's forever. If we train some of our girls to reward our Marines in Moscow, we're not asking them to lay down their lives forever. It's their bodies for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, as long as it takes to watch Jeopardy. Now, the practical terms of this, if you are able to do that, you save the $4 million in the psychological training program, you save over $1 million on the salaries that we pay to these women, the CIA pays them, so you have a savings of over $5 million. Now, what it is that these women would do, they wouldn't have to put in an 8-hour day, so you don't have to pay them $35,000 a year. You could give them real piecework, so they could become the real Peace Corps. Now, also, probably what would happen is you'd get a lot of really good men volunteering for service to protect our country, because it gets cold over there in Moscow. And by the same token, there are a lot of girls working the boulevard that would probably volunteer to go over there, so we'd clean up Hollywood Boulevard and we get them over there in Moscow. Now this becomes our real Peace Corps, do you understand? Now we would call this organization, we'd give them a nice classy name like they do in government. We'd give them a name like Ladies Offering Victory Embraces Love. Okay, that's the name of the organization. So if there are any 18-year-old ladies out there who are single, who might think that being in love is a good idea, Send me a postcard, care of Love, care of John Barber, KHJ, 5515 Melrose Boulevard. Now, on the back of it, just put your first name. Don't put your last name, and don't put your phone number or your address, otherwise it'll never get past the crew here. And we're going to take this information and we're going to send it on to the White House, and we're going to send it on to the Pentagon.